Well, season's greetings to everybody out there. And well, this time around on our virtual wine tasting number 52, we're going to be talking about Christmas wines. In particular, well, not so much that they're, Christmas, but they're also that, they're wines that go with uh, foods that are part of Christmas. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's look. So, I mean, these are kind of like your typical things for Christmas, which is your cookies, whether it's sugar cookies. Christmas cookies usually are sugar cookies with a little bit of almond extract in them. Also, like gingerbread, ginger snap cookies. Your pimento cheese logs. That's just kind of I think it's more of a Midwest thing. You have your traditional fruit cake, which is just your kind of brick of spiced bread with dried fruits in it. Cloved ham, for those of you that have never had, ham with like little cloves stuck in it. It actually kind of gives it a bit more of that, like a spicy bitiness to it instead of like a honey glazed ham. And then there's the traditional roast beef or roast beast. Usually those are cooked with, in the oven that have been rolled in, say, like garlic, pepper, especially like rosemary. So something with a lot of, you're wanting to find something that pairs well with that kind of like herbaceousness. Last one kind of threw in there was candy canes, though really, nothing really kind of goes with candy canes that in the wine world. So since we've already kind of gone over like your basic food pairings of just kind of making sure that you have a fat for the astringency of the wine, kind of list out the flavors that are in the wine versus the flavors that are in the food to kind of get matches in there. But in this, I'm gonna throw a little bit more at you in terms of like advanced food wine pairings. So if you want to take it to that next level, these are the kind of things you want to kind of concentrate on. Sweet foods, it's increasing that perception of bitterness, astringency, and it's the reason why a lot of sweet things really don't go well with things that are wines that are highly bitter, highly stringent, highly acidic, and also high alcohol, which is the reason why most things don't go with most of your desserts don't go with red wine. And so instead, you're wanting something that, well, no bitter. So you're wanting to look for like kind of a fruitier kind of white wine, and then, kind of a lower acid and also low alcohol. Umami, in terms of that's like your mushrooms, eggs, asparagus, sometimes like rich fish, like crab, lobster, things like that are all in that kind of umami field. And well, as you can kind of see, it almost has that same sort of increases perception versus decreases perception as the sweet. So again, you're wanting to look for something that's a little bit lighter and not so like big and bold. Now then you start to get into, well, like your acidic foods, things that are tomato based, have vinegar in it. Now here it starts to increase the perception of body and sweetness and fruitiness, and it also decreases the perception of acid. And this is the reason why kind of more of acidic, especially tomato based foods go so well with something like Chianti, where all of a sudden you're getting a lot more of those red fruit notes. It actually feels a little bit more full than the 12 to 14% alcohol that like a Sangiovese or Chianti do have. Then we go on to salty food. There, it just kind of makes it feel a little bit bolder. But as you can also see, it also kind of tamps down on that bitterness, the astringency, kind of like the not so much acidity, but like the tannins, and again the acidity. So if you're wanting something that, if you're wanting to kind of like enjoy that food more, you know, salty and acid are actually two of the foods that, you know, just kind of go better with wine comparatively to sweet and umami, where you're going to have a much harder time trying to pair foods with it. And then we get into bitter foods. These are like your dark leafy greens. And really that all that's going to do is increase the perception of bitterness. So if you like your bitter with bitter, then, you know, then this is the way you kind of go. So it's like, you know, spinach with, well, like something like a Cab Franc, then, you know, it's going to be super bitter. But again, if you don't want that, well, then you kind of go with something that's much less bitter, like a dry white. Now, thing that I'm always kind of, you know, a proponent of is spicy food. Now, and again, much like umami and the sweet, it's increasing that bitterness, astringency. The reason why I say and alcohol is that the alcohol is that it's perceived to be like hotter, or there's more alcohol in it than there might be. So you might be, you know, drinking like a 13.5% Cabernet, or you know, something even lighter like a Zin. But with spicy food, all of a sudden it's going to feel like it's a much more punchy in terms of like alcohol. So it just kind of like feels like a little bit more burny in your mouth. But again, it also kind of, you know, decreases that body sweetness and fruitiness. And then lastly, well, meat. And, you know, the reason why I kind of threw that in there is that it decreases those perceptions. And the reason why is because, well, mostly that bitterness, again, is the tannins. And meat, and especially, you know, it doesn't matter, duck, lamb, beef, whatever it is, as long as it's got a little bit of like that, you know, kind of blood to it, those proteins are going to bind to the tannins and decrease that kind of bitterness and astringency. So on to our first wine. Our first wine is our 2022 Eroica Riesling. And this is from, well, it's from Washington, but it's kind of a collaboration between Chateau Saint Michel, which is over in Washington, and Dr. Lucen over in Germany. And so between the two of them, there you kind of get this, well, as you can kind of see from that first sentence, that Riesling is, you know, like in the New World, a lot of Riesling, especially like up in the Finger Lakes region, is dry, just like completely dry. But in the Old World, Germany, Alsace, places like that, the Riesling is more of kind of like an off dry. If it's actually been done to kind of like that Auslese, Trockenbeer and Auslese, those are going to have, you know, words like that, somewhere between late harvest or even that noble rot, where, you know, it's almost like a syrup when it gets squeezed out of the grape. Those are going to be, you know, those are just completely sweet. And, you know, kind of a rule of thumb for desserts, and that's kind of why I chose this one for Christmas, is that it really kind of goes well with a lot of your desserts because of it being off dry. Now, again, rule of thumb for desserts is that the wine needs to have some sugar, sometimes even more sugar than what the dessert is, in order to, you know, make it still kind of be enjoyable. So on that note, let's go ahead and give this thing a pour. And as we're looking at this from our 45-degree angle with our white background, and again, we have a just pale lemon. I mean, this is it actually has a little bit of almost like like fizzy bubbles in there. So that's actually interesting. But let's go ahead and give this thing a smell. Now, anyone else out there smelling something interesting on this particular wine? Or I think I also suggested just any old world Riesling as well.
You need like a hint of apricot.
Apricot, okay. So a little bit of stone fruit. Like the first two things that I smell on this is lime and just that almost like quintessential Riesling gasoline, like petrol. And it's kind of like a it's zingy. But let's go ahead and give it a taste. Cheers. So it's definitely in that off dry camp. But that was actually, I've always been a proponent of the Eroica just because it's very clean. It really kind of hits home with that peach. That I think you had mentioned apricot, Corey, and yeah, it's much more in that stone fruit arena. Smells of citrus, tastes more like just ripe peaches. And some immediate acid, which is lending to almost kind of like a bit of a minerality. And there's something kind of like cloying at it. I wouldn't quite put it at like a vanilla, but well, let's see what let's see what the survey says for what we should be getting off of this. And well, again, so we got our lime, we've got peach. Now, the reason why I kind of put electricity, that seems to be the new term or the new favorite term that songs are starting to use out there. Mineral and minerality is really kind of being shunned.
Like licking a battery.
Yeah. So it's more about like I want to quite say like no other like fruit flavors, but usually in something that's a little bit more simple like this, higher acid, well, that acid is what's going to kind of like influence the tongue, and that's where you start to get, or it's actually something more like almost like zapping your tongue. And so that's why I kind of put those two, and I'll probably in the future more mention, on that acid note, less minerality, probably be referring more and more to kind of electricity. But yeah, no, I'm not sure for your Riesling if you're kind of detecting that little bit of like a gasoline smell, but that's kind of like a quintessential Riesling, just like note. Like if you smell that, there really isn't anything else out there that will have that very unique aroma and flavor.
Yeah, we're not getting a lot of that on this one, and the acid on this is just wild. It's like so upfront.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and try it with a few things. I'm going to kind of keep to my keto, and I even found Quest apparently makes a protein sugar cookie and also a protein snickerdoodle.
So we cheated a little bit, and we're already going through the sugar cookies, and it's very good with this.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and dig in. Now, I also have some Stilton, and I'm wondering because something about that combination of salty and sweet, much like, well, what one of those weird combinations that always surprises people is Stilton and port, and it's that whole like sweet salty combination that is kind of throws you for a loop. So I'm hoping that the Stilton also goes well with this, but definitely first this little sugar cookie. It's actually a birthday cake cookie.
Is it the mold, I'm assuming?
No, mulled will be last.
Oh God, the Beaujolais.
The Beaujolais. All right, so on to wine number 2, our Beaujolais. Now, for those of you that don't know, Beaujolais Nouveau Day is the third Thursday of November. Now, why didn't we have this for our Thanksgiving wines? Well, actually, I think we did that one before the third Thursday, but it was all concentrated on Pinot Noir anyway. So, well, might as well just put it here. And Beaujolais Nouveau it was a marketing kind of gimmick, and what they would do is after harvest, they would quick make this Beaujolais Nouveau while the real Beaujolais was fermenting and getting ready. And what they did was they ferment in a very specific way that is both odd and creates some interesting flavors, and that is carbonic maceration. And well, as you can kind of see from the picture, what they do is they take these, like, usually when you have your grapes, they destem them and they crush each of the grapes. So it's almost kind of like chopping them in half, just enough to get the juices kind of exposed and to the whole fermentation process. Instead, both the stems, which that's kind of one of the other requirements for carbonic maceration, is that the stems also have to be ripe. If they're not, it'll actually produce even worse kind of flavors to the Beaujolais Nouveau. But so they take these whole grape clusters, throw them in a big tank, and then they pump in a bunch of carbon dioxide, CO2, because this entire process, it needs zero oxygen. And what happens with it when it's at that zero oxygen and no yeast is that the grapes themselves start to do this thing called intracellular fermentation, where it actually starts to, between the pit or the seed that's in there, it's almost like it's like waking up to kind of begin the growing process. And what that does is it starts creating its own kind of amount of alcohol. Now, it's not much. It only gets to about 2% alcohol, but it starts to expand that grape to the point where the skin can't hold it anymore and it pops. And all of that liquid now starts to drain towards the bottom, which also then starts to start up like a regular fermentation, because on the outsides of these grapes is going to be kind of like wild yeasts and whatnot. And, then it starts like a regular wine kind of maceration or fermentation. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. And when we try this wine, there's some very interesting flavors that are usually pretty present with a Beaujolais Nouveau because of that carbonic maceration. And I'll kind of show you which ones are, part of just the Gamay grape versus which ones are part of that carbonic maceration process. So we have our Pardon et Fils, or Pardon and Sons. Actually, I think that's Fils is just son. And this is our 2023 Beaujolais Nouveau. This is actually the first year that I've seen Pardon et Fils as doing this. Before, it's usually George de Boeuf and the de Beaune, and both of them, I mean, like year after year, I buy their bottles, as kind of like a ritual. Every single time, though, they suck. Like I usually, I'll pour myself a glass and the rest of it kind of goes down the sink. Actually, I was kind of mentioning about the marketing. So the marketing for a Beaujolais Nouveau is that you're supposed to buy like a case of this and drink this until May, which is when the regular Beaujolais then releases. But let's go ahead and give this a pour. Now, as we're looking at this, one of the first things that is kind of interesting for this is that the color on it, this is one of our first that is on the purple scale instead of much more on the ruby scale, because this actually has like notes of almost like blue within it. So, but at the same time, it has like no room variation because, well, it was made this year. So I would be really worried if there was. That would mean that there's a lot more oxygen in it. But let's give this thing a bit of a swirl. All right. So what are some of the things that we're smelling out there?
I'm getting like banana, bubble gum.
Yep. I mean, are you getting any like your red fruits? Maybe even a blue fruit. Yeah, like are we getting
like a blueberry?
I could definitely, get a little bit of blueberry. You know, on the red fruit side, start thinking Gamay is very close to Pinot Noir in terms of a lot of its like flavor profiles. So we should be seeing I'd probably say this is much more on the cranberry, not so much on the pomegranate side. Now, along with the bubblegum and banana, what about cinnamon?
Maybe a little bit of vanilla.
Vanilla. Okay. That would be because that would come from oak, and this shouldn't. I mean, considering that it's as soon as it's fermented, it's thrown into a bottle. But in terms of what oh crap, I actually did that kind of soon. Apparently, Eureka hit me a little bit far quicker than I thought. Let's give this thing a taste and see if we get. Well, I mean, we already kind of identified the red fruit, bubblegum, banana, but let's see if somewhere on the palate is a little bit more of that like cinnamon and the kirsch. So that's the last one. So in kirsch being cherry brandy. So yeah, let's go ahead and taste this. Cheers. Now, I need to actually try like this year's de Beaune and de Boeuf, because this is probably, I don't know, I hate to say it, but it's probably one of the best. Actually, it is the best Beaujolais Nouveau that I've had. Yeah, I don't think that it's very strong on the bubblegum or banana. I mean, it is there, and the banana smell is almost more like fake banana. You know, kind of like the like runts. You know, that whatever that fake banana like smell and flavor is what I'm kind of getting off of this.
Yeah, the smell is completely misleading from the taste.
Mm-hmm. But I actually taste, like if if I was kind of blind tasting this, I would I would probably miss. I mean, I would get the bubble gum, but I mean there's a lot of those kind of like woodsy, um, earthy notes that you would actually kind of detect from like a regular Beaujolais, which is kind of amazing for this. That it feels like a kind of well, it feels like a grown up Beaujolais, and actually from the more structured areas like um, Morgon and was it something avant Moulavant. Hmm. But yeah, no, I would highly recommend if anyone out there is watching this and somehow doesn't have a bottle, get a bottle of the Pardon Face. I'll probably make another review at some point on the bottle of de Boeuf that I do have. But like I said, this I would actually drink the entire bottle of, comparatively to like I said, most of them that just end up down the sink. But on that note, I think it's time to try this with some foods.
Time for the cab.
Time for the cab. All right. So we are on to our third wine of the night, which is our Faust Cabernet Sauvignon. And I mean, well, for one, one, what better thing to have with roast beef than a Napa Cab? Super big, heavy red. And well, Faust being someone that made a deal with Mephistopheles the devil, and that just 4 days ago was Krampusnacht. And so I kind of figured that it was just kind of a fun kind of a play into the whole devil theme with this Faust Cabernet Sauvignon. So on the label here, I mean, it just has kind of like more of like a wise man and a snake, but no, but Krampus being the Northern European like counter to Santa Claus that would punish naughty children by essentially taking them, chaining them up, and throwing them in his backpack to steal off for forever. Now, and again, the big thing about this cab is that, well, the high tannins in it should bind. Well, it's more about the red meat. So again, we're trying to pair it with something that's umami based, got those red meat, and so well, those proteins should soften. Like when we try this wine, notice the tannin levels first, which should be kind of like on your front teeth, like in the gums, you'll start to kind of feel them get like itchy, almost like they're trying to pull back. And that should be the signifier of like high tannins. But then try to see if you notice those same qualities after you have some of your red meat. So let's go ahead and pour this. On Vivino, for a $50 Napa cab, this having, what was it, something like 20,000 reviews and being rated a 4.3, really kind of like set it on my radar of like, this is probably punching well above its quality weight. So in terms of what it looks like now, yeah, I just had to do a little peek over at the label, because as we're looking at the rim here, there is like no rim variation. So this is a very new wine, which again, for a Napa cab, 3 years old, this thing is still just a baby. But in terms of its color, I mean, this I'm putting a deep ruby. Like I'm trying to put my finger underneath, and I can't even see a shadow. Usually a shadow is what kind of puts it to medium ruby, but if you can't see a shadow at all, that's deep. So let's give it a swirl and a sniff. Ooh, oh, it smells nice. Oh, what are people getting on the nose? Me, it's definitely on the blackberry. Some red cherry in there. I swear I smell like herbaceous, like some kind of sage. But it almost, it's somewhere between there and almost like a tomato vine. And then there's definitely like a real oakiness to this that almost kind of smells like, it's not like, it's sweet. Like there's definitely that kind of heavily charred chocolate. I'm not quite sure if I'm getting vanilla off of this. You getting anything different?
I was definitely getting the dark fruit, a little bit of vanilla on the end. Oak, of course. Like Allie was getting a little bit of like rubber,
Rubber. Okay.
like plastic
Like,
smell.
okay. So like the asphalt tar.
Sure.
Oh, that's I'd say that's pretty good. So I did it again. Anyways, let's go ahead and give it a taste and see if what we smelled plus what we have here um, on the board is what we are actually smelling and tasting. Hmm. So the first couple of things that I noticed with this is one, it doesn't have a lot of acid to it. It's actually interestingly smooth. I I mean, other than the flavor profile kind of throwing me, I almost would have put this down as like a more like a zippy Merlot than a not so acidic Cabernet. The other is that really what kind of stands out to the forefront is that woody, like cedar note. In terms of those more of those spices and the vanilla. I don't quite get the dark chocolate, but I definitely get kind of that cinnamon and nutmeg along with the vanilla. And those are the first things. And then all of a sudden there's fruit. The more that I sip on it though, the more that I could probably just enjoy this with like a cigar. Like this is cigar wine. But on that note, let's go ahead and try this with some food.
Ali approves.
Got to use my MBA for something.
You should get like a little Venmo card so they can just
QR code.
Yeah, QR code for your Venmo.
Good idea. All right. We ready for our last wine of the night?
Not really.
Okay. So our last wine of the night is our Vinterlandschaft Glühwein. Glühwein being, or it's what it means is glow wine because it's served hot. And between the booze and everything else that's in it, it's supposed to make you glow on a cold German Austrian winter night. And what is mulled wine? Well, you take red wine, a bunch of baking spices, so that's your cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and clove, and along with orange juice, along with the actual oranges themselves, and brandy, and you heat those up, and and kind of steep them, and then you pour that out, and then you add brandy to kind of, because I mean the heating process is going to cook off some of the alcohol in the red wine. So I mean some people add like a third of a cup back to per bottle of red wine. I'm more of a 2/3 guy because I like mine really punchy, and it's really good on its own, but it's also good with spice desserts. So things that actually have those cinnamon, allspice, clove notes already in it. Well, they're already going to that's going to be those matches made in heaven. But on that note, we'll just go into the tasting. Because this is so adulterated and you already kind of have the recipe for how to make it, we're not going to kind of go into the the evaluation of it. But here it is here. Winterlandschaft, which means winter landscape. Normally I just make it on my own, but for those of you that don't have a crock pot or don't want to sit there steeping wine in a some type of cooking pot, this is your option. Now, I have to kind of pour this in here. I'm going to have everyone that's with us at home, and we'll skip right past this as we're waiting. But I want you to microwave this for about 30 seconds. You want to get it somewhat decently warm, not to the point of hot, but at least warm. Because, well, again, this is supposed to be served like pretty warm for fighting against, minus 10-degree weather. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right. Let me know when you guys have yours all warmed up.
Ready to go.
Okay. So as we're back here, nice and warm. I mean, smelling this thing, I don't know. It sort of has like the notes to it, but it's not really as heavily spiced as maybe I'm just kind of spoiled to my own, where I use like 6 or 7 cinnamon sticks along with like allspice and clove. I don't know. This kind of smells like uh an Asian international store. So it's more like a almost like a 5 spice, but it's not very strong. And I'm not sure if I get any of the oranges in it as well. But well, let's give this thing a try. I had also kind of mentioned I don't have any, but one of the Austrian drinks out there is much like this, but it's the non-alcoholic version. It is called Kinderpunsch, and they also top it with whipped cream. And so I was contemplating, I think I actually had mentioned that, if you have whipped cream, give it a little swirl in there as well to, kick it up a notch. But just by itself, well, let's see how this thing tastes. So cheers. Okay. So this has a lot more spice on the palate than it does on the nose. It's actually very, very spiced, or I won't say very, but decently spiced. This is not bad, and it's also not bad wine. I was expecting like a metallic tang, but I'd say that this isn't half bad for a glue vine that you're buying from the store. It's also I think by itself is 8% alcohol, so not very strong. Again, it'll if you drink the entire 1 liter bottle, you might be in trouble. But other than that, this is just more like, well, Christmas company party punch. But on that note, we'll go ahead and try this with some food out there. All right, come on, Snickerdoodle. Let's let's see you be magical for once.
So it's not, we had this thing in a crock pot for like, I don't even know how long, the entire session. And it's actually pretty good.
Did you make it, or did you use the bottle?
The bottle. We just put it in the thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen this stuff every year, but it was like, why would I ever get that?
I think the orange taste is the most surprising out of it.
Ooh. Okay, finally, fucking Snickerdoodle. It actually works with something. Of course, it works with the thing with sugar in it, which kind of goes against the whole point of having a protein cookie Snickerdoodle. Huh. Like, I'm not sure if I want to have this with anything else. Actually, I'll try with the birthday cake cookie. But yeah, I mean, I would say that this was actually a lot more, a lot. uh, It was surprisingly better than I was expecting, and yeah, again, for people out there that don't want to make their own, this is a decent alternative. I would still say, if you've got some cheap brandy around, like glug glug it in it, but yeah. And if I actually had like a couple of bottles of this for a party, I would definitely want to adulterate it, with a little bit more spices and no, I think it's got the right amount of orange, like citrus flavor to it, but it definitely needs, in my mind, more booze, more spice. But on that note, I think I'm going to go ahead and close out our session. So see you, YouTube. Bye.